Have you ever seen the 80s movie, The Untouchables? It's one of my favorites of all time. It's played by Kevin Costner and Sean Connery, Andy Garcia, and of course the great Robert De Niro. It's a movie about the capture of the notorious Chicago gangster Al Capone. Now, in the movie, Kevin Costner plays Elliot Ness, who's a Treasury agent for the United States government, and he's been tasked with going out and trying to find and legally capture Al Capone. And it's not an easy task. Right off the bat, he's got to go and basically recruit and find his own specialized team, mainly because he just can't trust anybody in the Chicago Police Department. And so therefore he goes out and he recruits guys like Sean Connery's character and Andy Garcia's character. Now, after a few miserable failures and attempts to try to find Capone, Costner finally says to Connery, "Hey, I need your help here." And to that, Sean Connery says one of my favorite lines, one of my favorite quotes in the movie. He says this: "So you say you want to get Capone. You see, what I'm asking here is, what are you prepared to do?" And to that, Costner says, "Anything within the law." And a great reply from Sean Connery. He says, "And then what are you prepared to do? If you open the can on these worms, you better be prepared to go all the way." You see, what Sean Connery is actually asking here is, how committed are you to this task? I mean, are you all the way in, fully in, or are you only halfway in and halfway committed? I've come to believe that Jesus is asking the very same thing of us. What are we prepared to do? In the book of John, in chapter 6, we find Jesus going to an area, the northeastern region of the Sea of Galilee, and he's gone there to teach people and work miracles and do his thing. So what we see is that Jesus is going to preach this sermon that we typically call the Sermon on the Mount. Now, in this sermon, and I keep doing this to the word sermon because mainly it really wasn't the kind of sermon that we typically think of today. But Jesus is there teaching. And in this one sermon, he is going to reveal some serious God knowledge to the people that have come. And the people that have come are just trying to catch a glimpse of Jesus. They've heard all about him. They've come from all over, from different villages and different areas all around the Sea of Galilee to come and be around him, to come hang out with him, to come hear what he has to say. And maybe some of them to be healed, and then maybe others to witness something miraculous. Now, during this time at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is going to do like three main things. And the first thing he's going to do is the sermon's kind of called the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes is really, the word is just a word that kind of represents those who God thinks is living the right way. They're living the good life. So he's going to teach on the Beatitudes. He's going to teach everyone there how to pray, a new way to pray. And then he's going to perform like one of his most famous miracles, which is the feeding of the 5,000. Now, as I just stated, people are going to come out from all over around this area to come and see Jesus. And we call the feeding of the 5,000. But in reality, though, back in those days, they only counted men, fully grown men. So really the count is a little more than that. Of course it's going to be more than that. I mean, 5,000 men alone, you know there's probably at least 5,000 women there, probably a lot more. And that's not even including children. So the total could easily be 10 to 15,000 people coming from all over to hear Jesus teach. So it's kind of like going to a major college basketball game. There's 15 to 20,000 people in the stands. And Jesus comes stepping on the floor to teach. So Jesus takes only a few small loaves of bread, 5 to be exact, and only a few fish, 2, and he puts them in a basket and prays to God and he gives thanks. And has his students pass these out to everyone everywhere. So as a piece of bread gets taken out of the basket, it's almost like 3 pieces replace every one they take out. So instead of the bread being subtracted from the basket every time a piece is taken out, it's actually multiplied somehow. Everyone is fed to the full, and even leftovers are taken up. A very amazing moment in Jesus' ministry and in these people's lives. A miracle for sure. So after Jesus performs the miracle, he tells his students, the disciples, that he wants them to take a boat and to go over on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And they're going to go to a western part of the sea in a town called Capernaum. And so they do that. They get in a boat and they only make it a couple of miles though, and this massive, horrible storm comes up and they literally can't row anymore because the storm is so bad. And this is the part that we probably pretty much know of when Jesus comes and walks out on the water to them and meets them out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. Also in Matthew, Matthew writes about Peter when he gets up out of the boat and he goes and walks out on the water with Jesus. This is all in the same time. So eventually they make it over to Capernaum. Now, the next day, while they're in Capernaum, all these thousands of people who came out to hear Jesus are now figuring out that Jesus is nowhere. He's gone. And they want to know where he went. And so they kind of deduce, because there's a boat missing, that he's taken a boat and he's gone over to Capernaum and they're going to go and do the same thing. And so they do. A big bunch of them, probably not all 15,000 people, but a big bunch of them go to figure out where Jesus is gone. And they get to Capernaum and they actually do find him there. And they come up to him and they say this: "Rabbi," which meant teacher, "when did you get here?" Now, to the common person, this looks like a very simple question from someone who is wanting to be around Jesus for the right reasons. But Jesus answers, "You've come looking for me not because you saw God in my actions, but because I fed you. I filled your stomachs, and for free." At this point, this is where Jesus kind of has his come to Jesus meeting kind of with these seemingly pure in heart people. He kind of lays everything out on the line for them. And he lets them know one very important fact about who he is that he has been sent by God with a very specific purpose. He tells them, keeping with the whole bread theme here, that humans are constantly searching for bread, and the bread that only lasts for a while. And the type of bread that we typically go for is the type that doesn't even satisfy or nourish our deepest part of who we are. He claims to have bread that will never go bad, that will quench our deepest hunger, and that lasts forever. Of course, these people are interested and they ask, "Master, give us this bread now and forever." And Jesus' simple reply is, "I am the bread of life." And he says, "The person who aligns with me hungers no more and thirsts no more ever." And this sounds pretty great, I would think. And it would seem that these people whom he's talking to, they should be ready to go. But Jesus knows deeper, and he says, "I have told you this explicitly because even though you have seen me in action, you don't really believe me. But anyone who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise that person on the last day. For my flesh is true food and my blood is true drink." So to the ordinary person, much like these people, this sounds a little gross, kind of, like almost vampire-ish. And they're left like dumbfounded, almost clueless. They still don't know what the point is. And that's a good question. What is the point? What's the point to all this? Well,